Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Perspective Checks, where I sit down with friends and folks from the TTRPG community to talk about all the stuff that gets us jazzed about TTRPGs and ways to share it with everyone else so they get more excited, and that just becomes infectious, and we're all playing more games in more fun ways. I'm so excited. This week I am joined by a cosplayer, a producer of a new stream, a actual play performer. You wear a lot of hats. Welcome, Kate the Great.
Hello, thank you. Yes, I am Kate the Great cosplays, and Don't Kill My Character. And I'm so excited to be here and get to talk about all of those wonderful things.
Yeah, and you cover a lot of ground within the nerdosphere, if you will, of this kind of thing. So I'm sure you have a lot of different angles that you've approached it from that we'll talk about. But how are things going with, are you busy with the cosplay scene with cons right now? Are you hyper focused on Don't Kill My Character?
I'm going to have to say it's the second one. It's the hyper focus on Don't Kill My Character. With how much time I've spent at conventions where I'll go and I run cosplay meetups for anywhere between 15 to 200 people. I'm so used to doing that now, and the way that I have it set is so regimented in my brain, and I've worked with so many photographers and wonderful event helpers that also know my way of doing it, that it no longer takes as much work as it used to get that done. So I really have pivoted my focus so much into Don't Kill My Character, because I can show up at the cons and do a lot of the events there with the years I've built that up. So I've gotten to explore the new growing side for me of this TTRPG actual play channel that I have.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that. And it's like anything else, right? And soon, you're going to have so many episodes and streams, and then, like figuring out how to make that whole AP part work, that you're going to get into the groove and be like, oh, I figured it out. And now I'm not spending as much time prepping audio and figuring all this stuff out. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you've got the chops, you've got the years of experience in the cosplay scene that it helps. But yeah, so very creative, finding a new thing to pursue and take up some time.
Well, I think that a lot of what brought me fully into the cosplay community as much as I am was TTRPGs. So it feels so natural to me to exist in both places. I always loved Halloween, and I'm a theater kid. So dressing up in costumes was something that I adored. And when I first started existing in the cosplay scene, I thought that I was going to be mostly known for Disney, because I love Disney. And I was part of some volunteer cosplay costume groups that would go to charity events as these characters. I do still work for Princess Performance Company. Every now and then I'll go out for that. And I thought that was going to be my spot. And then I started watching TTRPG actual plays. I started playing Dungeons and Dragons because I was in a cast of Rocky Horror Picture Show my freshman year of college. Nice. And the riffraff of the cast said, I've been a D&D player for years. I want to run a game. And a bunch of us cast members said, yeah, let's do that. And I was one of them. I was playing a wizard with high intelligence, low wisdom, not sure how to toe that line. And my dungeon master said, Felicia Day plays this character on 2 episodes of the show called Critical Role, named Lyra, who is a wizard with high intelligence, low wisdom. Watch those 2 episodes and it can give you an idea of how to play that. And I watched those 2 episodes, fell in love with the characters, went back and was caught up by, if you know the Chroma Conclave arc, I was caught up live by then. And
so you were early on.
Yeah, I was.
That's great.
I got into it like 2015, 2016.
That's actually when I started watching it too, in grad school. I remember it being like, moved to a different state, got back into school, didn't have like a lot, socially going on. And I was like, okay, like do my grad school stuff. And I found Critical Role and I was like, oh, this is an explosion of, okay, all right.
Yeah. And so the first con that I went to was also when I was in college, and I dressed up as Vex'ahlia, very different than the Vex'ahlia that is in my photos now. But every now and then I'll do a little throwback to what she looked like. And I was going to Renaissance fairs dressed as Vex'ahlia and then eventually Keyleth. And I still do host Disney cosplay meetups, and I still love spending time with those Disney characters and doing those kids' parties. But the love was always for playing pretend. And my motto as Kate the Great cosplays is we never grow out of our need to play. And cosplay and tabletop role-playing games both absolutely hit on that need and hit on that theater kid part of me. So having those really develop side by side and coexist side by side, it just always felt so natural to me, to the point where if I met someone who was into TTRPGs and not cosplay, or into those but wasn't a theater kid, I'm like, how did you get here? How did you end up in this community? Because it makes so much sense for those things to go together for me.
That's funny.
So yeah, they very much developed next to each other, my playing of TTRPGs and cosplaying.
Yeah, so that's like full circle. Surprisingly, I was never a theater kid. I went to a really prominent like high school, like known for its theater program, and everyone was a part of it. Like like the whole school like would be like, you're either cast or crew or whatever, like orchestra, right? And I was always like, huh, okay, see you guys. and I don't know how I missed it, and now being such a TTRPG nerd, it's like, wow, I really probably would have liked that a lot more. But I've already asked you 2 questions and we've gotten a little ahead of ourselves, and I want to ask questions based on what you just said, but I have a format, and for whatever reason, I'm going to stick to it. So we always open with the same 3 questions, and I'm going to ask those now, and then we'll hop right back to where we just were. So sorry for inserting this must-have. But I guess you kind of just answered the first one, which is, how long have you been playing TTRPGs or been around the hobby? So was Rocky Horror Picture Show, that was your first time playing TTRPGs?
Yes, it was being in Rocky Horror Picture Show, and then Dungeons and Dragons was the first TTRPG I played. So that was around the end of 2015, beginning of 2016, that we actually started that campaign. And then from there, it turned into me watching Critical Role and then finding other shows and other games to play. But it was years of just D&D before I moved to TTRPGs beyond that. But yeah, it came typical from this group of friends in college. And then as they graduated, as I wanted more people to play with, as I realized I was the only girl at the table and wanted more femme presenting people to play with, I started GMing. And that, I think my first time GMing was probably in 2017. And my favorite part about being a GM is a lot of the players that I introduced it to are now my GMs, and I prefer being a player. So that is absolutely ideal.
Ah, that's interesting. I don't know how many people I've talked to that went from player to GM and then still say they prefer being a player. And you also brought something else up. Wow, I'm like, hold on, give me a second to write down a bunch of other things to ask you during this, because you mentioned, being the only girl at the table, the only woman at the table. Yeah. It's tough because, I've always, my whole experience, I must be incredibly lucky, I guess, that I've always had a pretty even distribution of, mask or femme presenting people at my tables. And it's good like for that, perspective and variety and healthy kind of just discourse. But yeah, I've had multiple interviews on this channel with people who, for whatever reason, have had bad experiences or felt like they never had a place because it's I have a lucky view of the community, and I know that it's not always like that, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. We'll get into it again, and I'm sure that what you're doing with Don't Kill My Character plays into your values with that, which is very good.
Of course, thank you.
But yeah, so that's really great. And like you said, you went from a lot of D&D to eventually branching out to new systems, which is not uncommon. But I'm glad to hear you did. As somebody who's a play more games, like that is my mission statement, is like, get out of the walled garden of D&D, and like you'll find out that there's so many good storytelling games out there. See, I've already lost track of the questions I had based on that first one. Very exciting stuff to talk about. I'm just very excited to hear your experience coming from cosplay and theater and into TTRPGs. Okay. Refocus. Give me.
Okay. I'm here.
No, you're good. You're good. To finish up our opening 3 questions, let me get to the second one, which is, between having gone from D&D to finding new systems and now running Don't Kill My Character, what games have you been playing lately?
Lately, so much Mutants and Masterminds by Green Ronin Publishing. The story of how that came about was I was just looking to play more games, learn more games. I was in different Discord communities where people would just say, I'm looking for play testers for this game that I made myself, or I'm looking to just run a game and teach games to more people. And Claude, Curly Insane Guy online, posted that he wanted to run Mutants and Masterminds, and that wasn't one I had played, and I was interested in it. So I said, yeah, I would love to do that. And a bunch of other people who are currently in the cast of Superhero Shenanigans on Don't Kill My Character also responded to that. And it just, I describe it as lightning in a bottle. I was just sitting in this game, and I had, like I said, I was doing so many different play tests in so many different groups, and it would be fun and we'd have our fun time, and then, okay, goodbye. And I was just sitting there knowing I was getting my channel back up and running and thinking, I want this on the channel. This has got to be on Don't Kill My Character. And I floated it to them and they said yes. And I signed off, and then they celebrated amongst themselves because I did not realize just how much they wanted that to happen and were excited for it until months later. Yeah. And since then, I've built a really lovely relationship with the team at Green Ronin Publishing, which is for the years I played, and I did stream Dungeons and Dragons starting Don't Kill My Character in 2022, went on hiatus for a while there. But that's something that you would never see from Wizards of the Coast, reaching out to a, I would say little stream like mine, saying, hey, we see you're playing our game and loving it. Do you want our support? Do you want our assets, our artwork, our sponsorship? And their community, from their development teams, their community manager, to the people who play the game, have been so wonderfully supportive. So I have to shout out Mutants and Masterminds, especially superhero themed system, and Green Ronin Publishing. Other than that, I have been building my character for Vampire the Masquerade. Oh. It's unannounced at this point, and by the time this podcast comes out, will be towards the end of our campaign. But Don't Kill My Character has a Vampire the Masquerade series currently coming up called Sanguine Scourge. And this is my first time ever playing Vampire, but we have two storytellers, one for the Camarilla group, one for the Anart group, that are masters of it and so great at teaching it to us. So yeah, lately it's been Mutants and Masterminds, Vampire the Masquerade, and I got to dive into The Expanse by Green Ronin Publishing a little bit, which was really fun. And we'll probably have a game on Don't Kill My Character of that soon. Yeah, definitely soon by the time this comes out, as well as Daggerheart. We have a Daggerheart game that's scheduled to release in November. So hopefully that's still accurate by the time this premieres.
Sweet.
We are recording this July 5th.
Yeah, that's a lot of, that's great games. And actually what's really funny is, one, I will agree, Green Ronin has been secret pleasure of mine. Like, I've actually really loved their games for a long time. Back when I discovered Critical Role 2015, like 2016 grad school, like early on, you know, when they were Geek and Sundry Twitch streamers, all this stuff. Yeah. I remember, actually, it was during that time that Will Wheaton ran a very highly produced actual play. It was almost like a TV show of an actual play called Titan's Grave, Ashes of Volcana, which is an age system, which is Green Ronin's like house system, the 3D6 with the stunt die. Like, it's such a warm place in my heart, because it was like one of the first games I ran that wasn't D&D. And that 3D6 is like, it scratches the itch for the math nerd in me, right? Like, I'm a biologist, so I'm like a sciencey nerd. So like, the perfect distribution of that bell curve, and like the exciting moments when you get those like really high rolls, or like the really high stunt die, and you can start playing around with it. Yeah. And like you said, it's so nice when a small publisher, like a small, again, we say small in terms of our audience, our reach, and all this stuff. And like, they're a big studio making a lot of games, putting out a lot of things, but you know, it means a lot to see people out there playing their stuff and doing it in a way that they want to be like, hey, this is great. More people, like, we'll show this off. You want to show us off. And like, it's really nice to make those connections. And yeah, and I watched your Expanse episode, and I was like, yes, this is great. I love this.
Thank
So
you. Yeah, we're really excited to have more of that on the channel. And actually, it was Grant who's in that episode and on Superhero Shenanigans was originally planning for his campaign that he wanted to run to be Dungeons and Dragons. And after that episode, he came to me and said, "Hey, can we make this Age instead?" And I was just immediate, yes, immediate, incredible. I love it. I have a weekly meeting that is just me and Troy, the community manager from Green Ronin. And to have that time with
wow,
them and with him is just
that's cool.
incredible. And yeah, it's just like that amount of support and cooperation between the two of us. It's wonderful. And we have lots of ideas that happen in there that hopefully will be further down the line. So by the time this drops, I can be announcing more on social media. But it is so wonderful to be able to play these wonderful games and support them and have their support of us. It's an awesome dynamic.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I love that. Speaking of the games you've been playing lately, Mutants and Masterminds is one of my closest friends and longtime game friends' favorite superhero system. And I've played a bunch of superhero systems. Somehow that one's in my blind spot. I've never actually played Mutants and Masterminds, but I do love a good superhero game because it kind of just invites all the chaos and craziness.
Oh,
And
I mean, you're saying chaos. If anyone watches Superhero Shenanigans, you'll know how ironic it is to say chaos to me about that game and my character. My
oh
character
well,
is the little queen of chaos.
perfect. I will add it to my list to like the playlist queue for this. It's one of your longer series, so it's one of those ones where I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna jump in, I gotta jump in at the beginning and then catch up. So, and then actually, Vampire the Masquerade. I've never played any World of Darkness game. Somehow, I've like
Yeah.
I have a large collection of RPGs. I have the PDFs for Vampire and Hunter, and I think Mage, one of the old mages, The Awakening, and I've just never gotten them to the table. And they have an enormous fan base and following, presumably for a reason. So I gotta
Yeah.
get around to that one of these days.
Absolutely. This is also my first time playing anything in the World of Darkness, and I'm surprised it took me this long. I'm so glad I'm finally getting into it because I am someone who absolutely prioritizes the role play and loves getting into the drama, and I feel like these World of Darkness games are just built for the drama. So I am so excited to sink my teeth, pun fully intended, into
Nice.
Vampire the Masquerade.
Yeah,
Thank
if
you.
I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure the stereotype is it's the theater kid games. Like those are like if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken. So it fits. So the third question we're opening up with is what are we talking about today? And we've hit on this multiple times already, I think, but what is it that you primarily want to talk about today?
Yeah, talking about how how I exist in this space as a cosplayer, as a producer, as a player of TTRPG content, because I cosplay the TTRPG content,
Yeah,
and how all of this nerdy love and fun and play and storytelling all gets wrapped up together.
it does. And actually, yeah, the intersection of that actually my last few episodes that I've put out, not that I've recorded, but I'm thinking about this more as I do these interviews with people. There's intersections between communities and like nerddoms, if you will. Like that's not the best word
I
for it, but
will.
like hobbies, right? And things like that. I've recently put out a couple of episodes about, or I'm going to be putting out episodes about TTRPGs and writing, right? Like there is an overlap there, and like it's becoming more that Venn diagram is overlapping even more now, with like the emergence of the lit RPG genre of like writing and books. And when you talk about the intersection of TTRPGs and other forms of media, like I feel like fanfic and cosplay is a perfect example of this, right? I
Yeah.
mean, like if not even just Critical Role, I mean, we're talking there is incredible potential for cosplay and TTRPGs to exist in like this new kind of relationship, I
Oh,
feel
of
like.
course.
Yeah.
I've started hosting these meetups that are just TTRPG cosplay meetups at
Yeah.
conventions now. So that encompasses all of the TTRPG shows that people want to cosplay from and their original characters. And people will really just bring any characters to this meetup at all because they know that I can fit it into my lineups and photo sets. But it is something that really does enhance the process of play. I know for me that I've been sitting in my cosplays driving to a photo shoot or getting ready to film reels or getting ready for a game, and something about being in the cosplay and literally sitting in the character as the character
Mm.
even more so than we do when we're playing them I mean, we say the same thing in theater, how important and how changing it is to rehearse in your costume, how it just changes your physicality as a performer. I know when I'm Tinkerbell and I'm wearing the tutu and the wings and the little shoes, my physicality, I feel lighter. There's something about being physically in that character's cosplay that gives me the best ideas and the best clarity for them and who they are and why they are the way they are, and all of these new ideas and revelations about where they've been and where they are going.
Yeah, that's so, I don't want to say obvious because it's not something that people are going to think about, but it makes so much sense that putting on the costume, right? And it's one of those things where if you're cosplaying something like Tinkerbell, you know that character already in your head, right? But
Mhm.
you having to physically embody it is helped by you not being in your street clothes and being like, I'm Tinkerbell right now, and putting on the costume and being like, okay, this feels right. I can further capture this and portray this. And doing that with TTRPG characters, either ones, beloved ones from big streams, your Dimension 20s, your Critical Roles, all this, or just having a group that, even if it's once, we all sit down and go like, hey, do your best to like bring your character to the table. You know what I mean? Like literally like come dressed up or with something that's going to help you embody that. That was actually one of my questions was, I know you were saying in our brief discussions before this that you don't do a lot of your own cosplay creations as far as like you're not sewing each of these garments and costumes and stuff, but obviously that process you can appreciate to
Oh,
emphasize
yeah.
details of characters and stuff like that. Has that helped you either as a GM or as a player remember to give more interesting physical details, either personality coming out more or physical description or just how they talk? Before we hit record, you were talking about how that kind of slipped in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that when I started approaching cosplay, looking at a character and wanting to cosplay them, but not being able to make the pieces myself. So looking at, okay, what are the major parts of their look that I can recreate with pieces that I own or pieces that I can buy, things that I can easily enough modify to make that fit, to make that real. And I am not a very visual thinker, visually descriptive. So having that practice of actually putting these costumes together and thinking, what does my character wear, has helped me think more in advance as a storyteller, as a player. Oh, I should have a visual idea of what they're wearing. And now when I make characters, I make them with the full knowledge of I'm probably going to want to cosplay them at some point.
Mm-hmm.
How do I make this look something that will be somewhat cosplayable for me? And I'll take liberties with my own look because no one else knows. There's characters I've made that should be in all blue face paint that I just don't enjoy face paint. So I'm not
Sure.
going to do that.
Yeah.
But it definitely, the practice of looking at other people's costumes and character designs and trying to translate that into a cosplay for me has made me more aware as a player and GM of let's try to give some visual descriptions to this. And then existing in these outfits, walking around a Ren fair or a con and having your antlers hit people and having your dress get caught on the leaves and things does also have me think about the practicality of what are these adventurers wearing. And look, a lot of the times I'm going to toss that practicality aside because I'm
Sure.
going for an aesthetic and it's pretty and I like it. But something that I've also done a lot is put my characters in pants. I have a princess original character that I've brought to a lot of my meetups that I bill as TTRPG cosplay, but she's never been played in a TTRPG. And what I tell people is, look, if I can break the rules, so can you. People have
Mm-hmm.
brought Scooby-Doo characters to these meetups. It's great. And she goes from a princess, and it's very like pink princess coded, to this purple adventurer. She gets one golden scene at a ball, and then she goes Red Queen mode. And as a Red Queen, I knew she was going to be the boss and ruling and doing, and I wanted her in pants. And I'm trying to look up reference images for myself of like regal pantsuits, and they
Yeah.
don't exist.
Nothing.
And it was really me just finding pantsuits online and trying to see how could I
Ah.
modify this? How could I have the cape elements that I want with the cape sleeves and the silver elements? And I had way more pieces on it originally that I ended up taking off because it looked too sci-fi. not as fantasy as I wanted it to. But yeah, definitely thinking about how these characters exist in their world and what image they want to portray in their world has helped me decide, how do I cosplay an original character? How do I decide what a character that I'm making for a TTRPG is wearing and looking like? How are they presenting themselves through their clothing in a way that I honestly never did beforehand? I was not into costuming when I was in theater. I joke that I did actually everything but costumes when I was in theater. So it's been a very cool approach, again, to see those develop for me side by side.
Yeah, and like you said, it's going to be one of those things where you're going to throw certain practicality things out the window, right? Because again, with TTRPGs, so much of it is vibes, right? So much of it is framing scenes to hit on certain themes or moments or what have you. But having that in your head as something that you've experienced where you're like, oh, well, like, nobody thought about the fact that antlers hit these things, or you know what I mean, like this particular type of dress that I'm wearing is just going to be a mess from like the ankles down all the time is great, because you don't ever have to bring that up. But knowing it's there and having a moment where maybe your character rolls and they get like a really bad result, and like maybe they're just in a rut and they're not feeling themselves, you can pull on things that you're just like, hey, I know you've never thought of this before, but like little things are just adding up to just make that like bad day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, it's just these, I say this all the time, like people like to, think big picture, or like everything is like eventually D&D, a joke is always like, we start like taking care of a rat problem in a basement, and then by the end of it, like we're killing a god. You know what I mean? Like that's like every campaign.
Absolutely.
But zoom into like the little moments, and like that's where you're going to get the most emotional, like,
I've definitely built it in mechanically to my character. Going back to that D&D example, my first character ever was a noble enchantment wizard who liked her fancy dress, and she had precipitation and mending to keep her fancy dress looking nice no matter where she was. It would be clean, it would be mended. I built that into the character. But I think you put it well that those elements are there if you want them to be. If that's fun for the GM and the player to have that happen to the clothing, to have it be ripped and torn in those ways, great. If not, then your canon art always looks canon. Congratulations. Yeah. And yeah, it's giving that option, because it's all about, are the people at the table having fun? And in every session zero, even for Don't Kill My Character streams, where we are doing them for an audience, I always go back to that. My number one is, are the people who are in that session zero with me, the players, the game master, are they, game masters plural, I often have more than one, are they feeling safe? Are they having fun? Is the game going well for them? So I like how you put it as that's an option that they can have in the game if you want that clothing element to come in. And of course, the little things and focusing on the characters. I was the first game master on Don't Kill My Character. We started with the D&D game back in 2022. And I said that that game and other games that I ran, just home games, would not exist without the player characters, because I build it like a video game map where the world is just spawning around wherever they are. So it's really, the story is something that those characters are going to care about. And for better or for worse, I don't build it in a way of beyond that. I describe my own GM style as, I'm just more of a player. I'm just playing more than one character, but I'm still a player at that table. And a lot of what I do as a GM is also improv. So yeah, it's an interesting experience. Yes, I love it.
Yeah, I recently had this conversation with somebody because I'm putting out, I'm very late. And when this comes out, it will absolutely be out. It better be. But I'm a little late on delivering some adventures for a solo game that I put out not that long ago. And I was joking with somebody who's been playtesting it for me, and I said, oh, yeah, there's a lot of issues. Yeah, you're right. Thank you for catching these, because this is what happens when an improv GM sits down to try and write like an adventure. You know what I mean? Like I have to account for everything, but that's not how I GM. That's not how I write. I'm figuring it out as we're going. So to be like, let me give you this very clear, it is going to work adventure is really funny.
It was so helpful to me to have my games recorded so I could go back and watch and figure out what I said and what my players said
What
and
did I
try to
do?
describe that. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because me as a GM, I'm very often the same as I am as a player. Oh, wouldn't it be really cool and really dramatic if in this moment this person said this? And as a
Yeah.
player, I can do that and then we can figure out what that means in the greater context of the world. As a game master, what often happens is I'd have a villain drop this integral, dramatic, secret plot point that should have been something developed all along, but I decided would be a thing on the spot, and now I have to go support it.
Yeah, go
So,
back and then write it down and be like, where am I going with this? That is
yeah,
you are literally describing my solo actual play series. This is what I do.
incredible.
I record it, roll dice, go, oh, this is cool, nice, yeah. And then like after the episode, I go into my doc and I'm like, so this is what happened. What am I doing? You know, it's really funny.
Yep.
So we're getting a little off the topic of, it doesn't matter. No topic. We're just having fun. How much has other TTRPGs and like reading them and GMing them or even playing in them helped you with finding a good improving of a GM style? Like, did getting out of D&D help when you were like, oh, wow, this other game is much easier for me to do my wing it style with? Or
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like a lot of my improv just comes from I don't enjoy sitting down and planning. I'm not going to do that. That's not where my neurosparkly brain exists. And also, I have experience in theater in improv. I've been a theater teacher, including an improv teacher. I've taught improv from ages 3 years old to like people in their 90s. So I'm very experienced in the flow of improv and the fun of improv. And that's what I crave. The way that I approach so much of Don't Kill My Character truly is this fun for me? If so, yes, let's do it.
Yeah.
And so these just TTRPGs in general being so improv, yes, and heavy really feeds into that. Let's just sit down and tell a story together and see where it goes. And I think that what I really enjoy about diving into new systems is something that I've seen myself as a game master for the rare times that I am. I'm much often more a player than a game master. But what I found, especially doing it with my middle school students back when I was a teacher, is people who are new to the system, who are new to role-playing games, won't build their characters or make decisions in the moment based off of what they know is and isn't mechanically possible. But when people have existed in a system for a while, they almost become limited by what they know the rules of the system to be. So, for example, me with Dungeons and Dragons, I know exactly what that system can and can't do, and I'm not really asking questions outside of it. But with Mutants and Masterminds, if you watch Superhero Shenanigans, you can see I am learning to play that game as we play. And I think that playing is the best way to learn a game. And I also sit down at games to role play, not really to roll dice. So my character sheet was designed by Claude so that I wasn't rolling dice a lot myself, which is hysterical and wonderful of him. But when it comes time for me to gain new powers for my character or make new characters as we add new shows, I'm very much just throwing out the story and the vibe of my character, and without any regard for the mechanics because I don't know them yet, I'm asking, like, I'm just saying, this is what I want my character to be able to do. And I think it is a more complete way of looking at the character than I do for systems that I become overly familiar with, because I'm not building it around the mechanics of the game. I'm building it around who my character is as a person and what their life experiences are and why they would have these abilities and these flaws and these details. So I really enjoy diving into new games for that. And I think that that makes me a better role player, not being so hindered by what I know the game to be.
That's actually that's really great. I think because we play these games and the whole thing is, we have this agreed upon setting, or, you know what I mean? Like the game structure, the game rules provide this is the kind of game we're going to be playing. And these are the kinds of things that you can do. And obviously going in and being like, we're going to figure that out as we go is one, very fun as both player and GM. If you're got a GM that can roll with it and improv, like you said. But again, like, it's really funny because I'm much more on your side of things, but like, it's funny because there are other players in this same community, which is so wild, that are very much like almost like the one step away from war gamer. And that's like what I
Yeah.
like to play, right? Like give me the very rigid structure, give me like the very specific, these are the bounds of the things that I can do. And within that, I'm going to do everything in my power to XYZ. And it's like, okay, very interesting. And it's great that there are games and tables and play types that can accommodate both of
Yeah.
those things in the same umbrella.
And when I'm casting for Don't Kill My Character, and especially Superhero Shenanigans is a show with a rotating cast. So we
Yeah, it's
have
big,
9
right?
cast.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
we have 9 cast members total on that project, but you usually will only see 6 to maybe 7, because I throw myself in for some dramatic moments on screen at a time. So when I look at these episodes and I look at them with the game masters and what's going to happen in there, I know what my different players enjoy doing. So if it's a combat heavy episode, I'm not there.
Yeah.
I'm writing myself out of it.
These 3 people are going to be, yeah, right?
Yeah, I know the players who are constantly saying, I want more combat, give us some combat. And the players like me who, no, we just want to role play and talk. I'm sitting down to tell a story and play pretend and play make believe. I come at this so much with that just childhood thought of when you're playing pretend as kids and going back in my theater classes to the ritual and history of theater to telling stories around a campfire. There were no dice, there were no rule books, there were no mechanics. Children playing pretend are just playing pretend, and they don't need these story structures to do that. And I've had this conversation with people who really enjoy the dice and enjoy the story structure and enjoy the mechanics. And I do too, to an extent. But really, I want to be able to play pretend. And we don't need dice to do that. And there's even some moments where I'm like, when it comes to making a persuasion check, for example, if someone gives a really impassioned roleplay speech, I want to just reward that. If that speech would work for the NPC, then that speech works. Then if someone's just like, I rolled to persuade the guard, doesn't say how they do it, doesn't act it out because that's not their style. Okay, I understand. That's a time when dice can come in and decide. But if the roleplay decides for itself, let the roleplay decide for itself.
That is one of my biggest pet peeves, especially about like D&D and its offshoots, is like this game has so many rules for combat. And then basically for anything social, it's like, roll this one thing one time and there you go. And I agree. Like,
it doesn't reward role play, and in a lot of those systems too, you level up based on how many enemies you defeat. So when I GM systems like that, I do milestone leveling, where it's just whenever it narratively makes sense for you to become more powerful, you become more powerful.
Yeah. I have a couple questions that I want to follow up on with things that have been said. And in my notes, I'm already like 2 up and I'm like, oh gosh, I got to go back. Especially with getting into character and doing that both, you know, if it's a stream and you're just playing with your friends and you're logging on, or if you're going to a convention and you are showing up in your, you know, original character cosplay for TTRPG events and things like that. And then you sit down at a table and you're like, here I am. Like, I know how this character is going to act. Do you find that, do you ever experience, have you ever heard of bleed?
Oh, yes. I love talking about this topic.
Yeah, this is one of my streaming friends. This is a big thing with her, and especially when we play games that get a little heavy, you know, we're always checking in and want to make sure that everyone's good. Because, you know, you play a character that has a really heavy emotional moment, you can know you're in a game. You can know you are just playing a character and just having fun with your friends. But, you know, you're exposing yourself to those emotions in some form or fashion, and how much that kind of comes through and affects you after. Did you find that happens more? Or is it just your play style that, you know, you have a pretty baseline level of bleed?
So, yeah, I think that, first of all, character bleed absolutely happens. And it's something that the narrative I was seeing in the TTRPG space for a very long time was how to avoid character bleed. And finally, that changed to, it's not something you can or should avoid. We are emotional beings having emotional experiences. Let yourself feel those emotions. Just do it in a safe way. So when I approach characters and scenes that I know are going to be heavier, there's a couple different ways that I will go about it and check in with myself, with my game master, if I'm a player, with my fellow players, whoever those people are. And first thing I'll do, which unfortunately I can't really do for Don't Kill My Character because I go from doing the tech setup to the announcements to playing the game. You might notice in those episodes, I certainly do, that I have a bit more of a frantic energy towards the beginning of games than I do towards the end, because I can't take that time that I like to take to settle into my character, because that time is instead going into setting up and announcing the stream. But when I'm doing someone else's channel, whether that's a podcast or I'm just signing on for tech, I will take that sign on time to make sure my own tech is set up, say hello, and then I'll turn my camera and mic off and I listen to songs that help me connect with where that character is mentally and emotionally, what space they're in the game. And I just sit with that music playing. I sit with that character. I take deep breaths and I just let them in. And I am not a proponent of method acting, and I want to be very clear on that. That I think it is very different for me to step into what is the character's headspace and be able to safely exist in that headspace. And there's some days in some tables that I know I can't go as deep in, and I'll tell people like, hey, this is not going to be Kate is more at holding the steering wheel here than I sometimes do, because I'm not in a place to fully step into this character right now. And that's another thing to be very aware of for these heavy bleed characters. But it's knowing that I can step into their space, I can have this experience with them as them. And a joke that's often made is that these characters make decisions that Kate will be upset about later, that Kate will not agree with later. As soon as that recording stops, I'm like, why did you do that? I didn't want you to do that. He wanted to do that. And letting the character speak instead of Kate steer them if I'm in a safe enough environment to do so. And then after the stream, stepping back, and after every single Don't Kill My Character episode, we talk for at least half an hour as a full cast to just discuss what happened and how we feel about it and what we like that other people did, that we ourselves did, what we hope to see more of in the future, if there's anything we don't want to see more of. And then we're also, for hours after, for some of us, we just stay on and talk about anything and everything else going on in our
or
lives.
Messaging or what have you, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
oh yes. I mean, the hours and the days in between, there isn't a day that goes by that I'm not talking to at least one member of the Superhero Shenanigans cast. And that happens a lot when I get really deep into a show, because in order to have that emotional safety to experience that character bleed, you need to have that safety and security with the people that you're telling those stories with and being in that space with. So I really love the supportive communities that I've been able to create with Don't Kill My Character, and the supportive cast that I've been able to step into with other shows that allow us the time and space to do that. And also the time and space to say, hey, Kate's hands are over this character's hands on the wheel right now because I'm not fully going into that space. And I think that character bleed is very informative, honestly, of where I am in my own life. I've told my cast members that my therapist loves my TTRPG games and love my characters because I'll notice themes that a bunch of my characters at once will be dealing with or thinking through. And then I'm like, okay, well, if all these characters are doing this, thinking this sort of thing, maybe Kate's going through that as well. And there is so much self-discovery in TTRPGs, but don't use your TTRPG table as your therapy. Use your therapist as your therapy. And it's about doing it safely, having those safety tools, having those consents, having the communication with your cast in and out of game. And for all that people see us talking on screen and talking in Twitch chat, we are talking even more in our private Discord chat during the game, after the games. It's a lot of that communication, and not only checking in with the other people at your table, but checking in with yourself.
I will say I think the second episode, the second interview I ever did on this series was with a therapist who uses RPGs.
Amazing.
As part of their therapy. And
it's such a great tool for that.
My first DM and one of my friends from my streaming group just finished his master's to be a therapist, and he's planning on going into RPGs with therapy. So
congratulations to him. That's amazing. I love hearing that.
It's really cool because, like you said, like, you might realize your characters are being built or making decisions in a way that makes you reflect and go, maybe this has something to do with what I'm going through or what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
And
I
and
learned
I
a
think
lot
that
about myself through my characters. I mean, one of the most wonderful things I learned about myself through my characters was I learned that I was queer through playing TTRPGs.
yeah, I've yet to dive into the therapy of it all, but like I will almost never play, like unless I try and switch it up on my podcast too. But like if ever given the chance, like I'm almost never playing like cis men. You know what I mean? Like when I play my characters, and it's just like because I want to use these games, these stories as opportunities to experience different perspectives of just experiencing life and moments and things like that. And it's like maybe it's avoidance. I don't know, but we're not going to self therapize right now. But yeah, one thing that you said that I love about your characters and getting into character is music.
Mhm.
I've seen lots of people who make playlists for their characters, which
Oh,
makes all the
yes.
sense in the world as a former going for it musician. Love that. Music obviously carries so much and can communicate and help inform so much about, especially if you're playing another character. Very clever. I recently saw somebody in a game design like Discord, and they were like, does anybody make playlists like for your game that you're making to kind of give people vibes? And
Yeah,
I responded, I was like, no, but now every game I ever make will have a playlist. Because like I never thought of that, but genius.
it's great.
Yeah. Can you share? Can you? You don't have to. Can you share like one of your characters' theme songs, like the one that's like,
Oh, one theme song. Oh my goodness. I feel like, so first of all, I talked about her a bit before. The first character I ever played back in 2015. I still add songs to her playlist. Her playlist is over 200 songs, and I've played her in more than one game
mhm,
since then. She actually was an NPC when I GM'd the first ever series on the channel. So it's, I feel like it's so hard to pick one song for
sorry,
any one of them because they all go through different moments in their story where they would have a
yeah,
different theme song for those moments, to the point where if I'm getting ready to play a character, I open up their playlist and I go through and I queue up songs that fit for that moment, wherever they left off from the last game, where I believe they're going in this game, that will match that. To pick one song would be so
sorry.
hard.
I didn't know if you had like one song that immediately in your mind went like, and that's this character. You know what I mean? Like,
I feel like so many other people that I play with that will share their character playlists do, and my neurosparkly brain just
yeah,
cannot choose.
can't be defined by a
It
single song. That's good though. That's
changes on the
great.
day.
Yeah, and also the fact that you put so much work into these, for where it's less about the core and more about where they're at in their journey, makes a lot of sense. So way to dodge putting any music recommendations out there for people to be like judging your music choices.
I mean,
Uh,
the other thing is, if you look at any of my character playlists, it is the most random assortment. You'll see,
yeah,
I
sure.
mentioned this, you'll see Disney on there, you'll see Broadway, you'll see punk music, you'll see
Yeah.
pop music. It makes no sense, which does work with most of my characters and my own brains anyway, so it's fine.
No,
But
that's great.
I so admire people that have succinct, curated, well-ordered playlists that tell the story, the emotional story of their character. Couldn't be me. If I hear a song and it matches their vibe or a past event or someone that they knew or somewhere that I think the story might go, it's going on the playlist, and that's that.
Yeah, as you said, couldn't be me. It was on the tip of my tongue. I was like, couldn't be me. Wouldn't be
Yeah.
mine for sure.
Nope.
Speaking of one, characters, specifically your OCs, and also you said there's Disney on there and all this stuff. Do you have a personal favorite, like fictional character, either one that you've cosplayed or not? And then follow up question to this. This wasn't on my little briefing that I gave you because I had to. I was thinking like, what else could I ask? If you could cosplay any one of your TTRPG characters from any of the games you ever played, who would it be?
Gosh, I feel like I've cosplayed a lot of
A
my
lot of them.
favorites. Well,
Yeah.
I guess. All right, I gotta answer this in two parts because asked in two parts.
Yeah. Sorry.
So, favorite fictional character. Oh my goodness, I've always loved Peter Pan, and I think that just goes towards my we never grow out of our need to play mentality, because that's a character that knows that. And he doesn't go about it in the healthiest way. And I
No.
love diving into Peter Pan lore and the darkness of Peter Pan. And
Book Peter Pan or like Disney movie Peter Pan? Because book Peter
all of
Pan
it.
is problematic. Like,
Yes, yes.
book Peter Pan is yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway.
all of it. I love every iteration of Peter Pan. Once Upon a Time, Peter
Yeah.
Pan. If
Oh yeah,
anyone's
I
watched
remember
that
that.
show, oh
I
my
remember that
gosh,
show,
my
right?
favorite show in high
So
school.
yeah, I love Maine. I've lived in Maine for like, almost a decade, and now I don't live there anymore. But it's Storybrooke, Maine, being like where
Yes.
that took place was so funny to me that I was just like, well, respect. And
The
yeah, I love it.
the reason that my character Marley on Superhero Shenanigans has a red leather jacket that I can't wear on recent episodes because it's too hot, but I wear in the first episodes, is because Emma Swan from Once Upon a Time had a red leather jacket, and I
Heck
was
yeah.
shopping with my twin sister and my mom, and I saw one on the rack, and I was like, oh, like Emma wears. I couldn't pull that off though, because I'm this pink princess girly. I can't have something that edgy. And my mom and my sister like, put it on, try it on. And I fell in love with it. And ever since then, I have always owned a red leather jacket. If one dies, if it's just too, like if the leather is
Yep.
flaking off and I can no longer wear it, I buy another one. So that's why Marley has a red leather jacket. Yeah. So I think Peter Pan is that character because
Great choice.
The never going out of the childhood need to play and the complexity of the emotions there. And there's so much more that's under the surface. And I love Finding Neverland, the musical with Jeremy Jordan in it, for any Broadway stands that are listening here. So many, yes, give me the thumbs up. So many retellings. I think there's so much malleability to that story. And again, another thing that's so interesting about it is how many different takes on the story and the characters in it and the lives around it there have been. My characters to cosplay. So I did mention my first character, Elle, who is the nearest and dearest to my heart. And I played her originally as a high elf, and then it was like 2 different campaigns that she played in that dropped and weren't finished. And then I finally got to tell a finished story in a campaign that was inspired by the Dragon Prince for her. She became a star elf. And so I've cosplayed a star elf version of her. And that was very special to me to have that cosplay. And I think it would be fun to do her original high elf version. Yeah, I've never done that one. And it's always kind of been in the back of my mind. Another character that I have multiple looks for, actually, I think probably my only one I have so many looks for. I mentioned her earlier. Maybe we weren't recording yet, but my princess to queen, Annalie.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned her, yep.
Yeah, so she starts off as a pink princess, and then she has a purple adventurer look. Then she has a red queen look. There's a golden masquerade ball look she has that I have not cosplayed and very much want to. And I imagine some more looks would happen. I have a novels trilogy worth of stories mapped out for this character with Denny Alaska Wonderlust online, who cosplays her situationship Eros, and she also has lots of different cosplays for Eros, and it's a story that we pick up and put down multiple times through text-based RP, and then dressing up and going to run fairs together and cons together as them. But I think the 2 of my own characters that I would love to cosplay that I haven't would probably be the original version of Elle from that first home game, my masquerade ball golden version of Annalie, and Nothing Gold Can Stay, which is why that she's only gold for one scene.
Wonderful.
And I think I would probably just toss in a few more of my home game characters in there.
Yeah.
I have a warlock, a hexblade warlock, Maeve, who is very purple elements and sword and armor. That would be really fun. And I had this tiefling, but just very severe and tall. So I wouldn't actually want to cosplay them because I wouldn't be able to cosplay them the way that I would want to. Cosplay is for everybody, and never let your body stop you from cosplaying. But I would rather have art done of Dominion than cosplay them myself. I wouldn't feel right trying to look at myself as Dominion. But yeah, it's a lot of the characters that I've gotten to play on stream, I've also gotten to cosplay already. So that's been really fun and joyful for me.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, I've worn like little things here and there for streams and stuff like that, but I've never dove full in, and that would be really fun to do one time, I think.
Well, streaming is interesting because streaming is just I'm setting myself up from not even the chest up. Sometimes it's just shoulders up.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'll arrive on stream and really it's my neck up, and then I'm wearing a dress that is low cut and it looks like I'm not actually wearing any costume. So doing the looks for streaming is so different thinking about it than doing full looks, because you really have to think about, what do I really just look like from my shoulders up? Because that might be all they see.
All right, I have to transition here to a few, maybe we're going to ask a couple questions before getting to closing questions. We're going to do one based on your motto, which I love so much, and we will say one more time. And then I have pre-closing question that we can rapid fire.
All right.
So your motto is, we never grow out of our need to play, which is wonderful. I agree entirely. You know, growing old is mandatory. Growing up is optional.
Yes.
And also, I think that there's a lot of underappreciation for the impact games can have on you as a person you're developing, especially TTRPGs and games like this, where you are playing pretend or occupying points of view in a story where you may not be exposed to those kinds of things elsewhere in your everyday life. I wanted to say a couple of things, and I'll let you obviously continue to gush about why it's so important to you. But only recently, and I'm actually only like 3/4 of the way through it, is I'm reading a book right now called it's from the 1950s. It's this French book called Man, Play, and Games. And it is about the importance of games in a culture. And it's about how you can go back in time and look like humans have always played games, whether it's children, whether it's adults developing games. And it can be anything. Like, this was written pre any TTRPGs, which is really interesting, right? Because that's how my friend and I decided to co-read this, because this predates any sort of role-playing game. There obviously war games existed, but no like inhabit this character. And he has, you know, multiple types of games. Like you said, like kids playing pretend don't have structure. They don't need rules to play pretend. But, you know, he breaks down, the author breaks down, there's like games of competition, games of chance, mimicry, which is like any kind of theater, right? Or like pretending to be someone else. And that's a kind of game, obviously, that you're playing to see like who will believe you, you know, like as you spin this tale. And then games of vertigo, which is like, how long can I hold my breath? Who can spin in circles more before like we just like lose our balance and stuff like that.
Yes.
But there's also like a matrix, right? Like there can be competitive mimicry, or like, you know what I mean? There can be like chance vertigo, you know? So it's really interesting. And he breaks down further why certain cultures came up with certain games, and what that reflects about that culture is really important. And I love that it came out pre-TTRPGs, because I feel like a revisit to something like this and how important TTRPGs are to a segment of society and people, you know, is really, really important. And people need to play. Like, I think people do. Some people need to remember, we're just floating on a rock in space. Like, play some games.
It is an inherent human need to play, to have fun, to tell stories together. And I think that the recognition of that need has really sparked this industry, this community that we're in, with TTRPGs, with interactive entertainment, with LARPs, with Comic-Cons, with choose your own adventure, interactive entertainment and media. We're seeing more and more entertainment where the audience is an active participant in the entertainment. And that is building the need to play and storytell and create together. And it is wonderful. And I'm so glad that more people are recognizing that and embracing it. And even people who think they're not embracing it do, in a way. If you look at sports fans and the way that they show up painted and in their version of costume with the jersey to these events, and they yell and scream and cheer and cry, those are all the big emotions that we're having in TTRPGs. We need those emotional outlets that are beyond the emotions of our own lives, that we can experience as a group with other people. So whether you're crying together in the theater or around the TTRPG table or in the sports stadium, it's hitting on that intrinsic human need to feel these big emotions beyond ourselves as a community and be part of something that is important to all of us together in that way.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And even if it's not, you know, to the extent of I'm part of a huge community following this story of a big TTRPG stream, or I am a sports fan whose team just won a trophy they haven't won in 100 years. You know what I mean? Like I remember being a New Englander when the Red Sox finally won after like 100-year drought. Like it was just like I saw my grandfather cry in a way that I was like, this is weird. You know what I mean? Like I don't understand, you know, but
Yeah.
it's that I've put myself in as a member of this community, but sometimes all it takes is you and 3 friends sitting around a table to have that impactful moment that's going to affect you for the rest of your life. And all of
Exactly.
the people in that small table, that story will never get out to the wider world. That play was so important.
One of my favorite things to talk to TTRPG players about, I'll do this with you now.
Yeah.
Think about one of those moments, one of those impactful, dramatic, memorable moments from one of your games. Are you thinking about it from the perspective of your character living the moment, or are you sitting around the table?
So I'm a forever GM, but I could tell you right now, I've made players cry at the table, and I will always remember that, and that's like a badge of honor that I wear. You know that I got that. I do have one moment, even from a stream, that I remember very powerfully, which was we were playing. It's called Good Society. It's a Jane Austen RPG. So good. And we were streaming it bi-weekly. So I had time between sessions to write a letter in character to one of the other people streaming it.
So
And I
good.
sent it to them out in Iowa, and I sent it and they read it on stream. And I remember being like really vulnerable that like, you know, I wrote this letter as my character and like did not care that I wasn't even thinking like this is going to get read on stream and like people will hear this and like, you know, but then it was read on stream and I was like, oh gosh, like I feel really vulnerable in this moment as to like how everyone's going to react to this, you know? So yeah.
Something beautiful about that vulnerability that we can let ourselves have.
Yeah, it is. And again, some people will shy away from that part of it, but they can get there even if they just start with like, I play this guy. What does he do? He rages and he swings and he hits things. Cool. You're getting there. Baby steps. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. All right. My one question, pre-closing questions that we can maybe rapid fire. The name of your AP stream is Don't Kill My Character. And I think we know why you seem to, you know, you have an attachment. You build these characters from a place of wanting to experience a lot from them. Have you ever had a character death? Have you ever had a PC die in a campaign?
I actually have not.
Ooh,
so
wow.
I think that title has really protected me, and I joke with the people on the channel that don't kill my character. It's my channel, so I'm pretty sure it's just my character you can't kill. So we have had other characters die, but not mine. And from playing TTRPGs as much as I have since 2015, it is incredible that I have not had that happen.
Yeah.
But
quite a streak. You got to keep it alive.
Thank you.
Nope,
yeah.
No pun intended. I guess pun intended.
Oh, pun accepted, though.
Yeah. All right. Interesting. Very cool. All right. Well, okay. One last flip on this.
Okay.
As a GM, have you ever killed a PC?
No, I was supposed to, and I didn't
you pulled
get
your
to.
Punch. Oh.
Well, no, that wasn't it. So when I got, because I said Don't Kill My Character started in 2022 and then really got revamped fall 2024. And we had this series that I ran with Sean of Help Action Needed called Shipwrecks. And we knew that the first 3 episodes were being DM'd by me and the last 3 episodes were being DM'd by him of this miniseries. And so we had this plan that I was going to kill his PC from my 3 before, like at the end of my 3rd episode before we switched over. And it didn't work out. It didn't happen that way. Just the way that I set it up and the things the other players were doing. And I'm messaging him on the side because we're live on Twitch. Like, I'm not going to get to kill this character. Yeah. And like, it's okay. Like someone else, like I'll handle the character going away at the beginning of my section. This isn't super spoilery. You'll be fine if you want to go watch. And I was like, no, you don't get it. I wanted to kill this character.
I wanted to do it.
I do pull my punches as a GM because I build my stories around the characters, and the stories I tell don't exist without them. So I do pull my punches. I've had players say you can punch harder, and I'm like, no, I don't know what I'd do without you. But also I have death in a TTRPG doesn't have to mean permadeath unless the player wants it to. There's always ways to go rescue the soul, and I always have those planned if a character does die. But I was like, this is going to be so fun. I get to kill a character on the channel, and I didn't, and I still haven't. Yeah. I don't want my characters to die, but I do want to kill a character.
So, yeah, I'm of the opinion that I think the the games I prefer playing are the ones where death is always a character choice when they hit a
Yes,
certain threshold.
absolutely.
And it's the player can choose. Like, is this a good moment for your character to go out? Like, because I've had moments as a D&D DM where, like, in a random encounter, an unfortunate roll and a character died, and it's like,
It's
that's a bummer. You know what I
nifty,
mean? Like, that really
unsatisfying.
feels bad. But also that sometimes there are games, right, where like there's this famous fantasy, it's called Dungeon Crawl Classics, and you're supposed to start, every player starts with like 6 level 0 characters, and it's like the town is under attack, and whatever character from your 6 level zeros makes it to the end is, congratulations, this is your level 1 character. You
Wow.
know what I mean? So like in moments like that, that's got to be a fun way to experience character death. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Because like you didn't build these characters deeply, so yeah.
exactly.
But all right, let's transition to closing questions. This is my favorite one, and I love hearing. I can't wait to hear what you say about it. Do you have any last bits of wisdom, advice, or homework for the listeners?
I think the most important thing to do with whatever you choose to do in these spaces online, whether it's cosplay or TTRPG or anything else, is to have fun with it and with what you're making. If you're I see people put those polls out asking the community, what do you want to see from me? And I know that if I were to make more short form videos, then my algorithms would do better and I'd get more followers. But I'm not going to do those things that don't interest me. And maybe that's just my neurosparkly brain. But if it's
Nah,
not
respect.
something, if it's not something that I'm going to have fun with, I'm not going to do it. So whatever you're choosing to do in this space, do it because it is fun for you first. And if anything else comes from that later, that's wonderful and beautiful. My cast, especially the superhero shenanigans cast lately, have just seen how emotional I've gotten over Don't Kill My Character, because I really did just approach it as I'm pulling people together to do things that are fun for me. And now I have this community that's fun and welcoming and beautiful for so many people. And I have my emotional support plushy dice bat that I'm hugging right now
Nice.
to help support me in feeling those emotions, because that is so wonderful to me. And it wouldn't have existed at all if I hadn't just gone with what is fun for me to do. If it's not fun for you, then it's probably not going to be done, especially when anything like monetization in these spaces is so few and far and in between.
Yeah.
That let it be fun. Let it
Let
be
it
your
just be
fun. Let
fun.
it be your,
Yeah. That's great advice. I agree. There's always a temptation, right? Especially because like you see other people doing similar things and you're like, oh, interesting. Like, I could do it that way. And then it's like, but then it's draining the fun of it. And,
Yeah.
I'm the same opinion. Like, don't just do what everyone else is doing because you think it might work. Like if it's not something you want to do and you're not going to be able to keep up with it, or it's going to cause you stress. Yeah.
And I'm constantly reevaluating the things that I'm doing as Kate the Great Cosplay, as Don't Kill My Character, and seeing what is fun for me. And there's ideas that I've thrown out on stream that haven't happened yet or haven't happened at all. There's things that goals that I would like to do that haven't come, or things that get dropped because they're not fun for me. And I want to focus these energies on the things that are and see what comes from that.
Great advice.
You can't
Love
do
it.
everything. You can't do everything. So do what works for you.
Yeah. Like we were saying, I think before we went live, actually, before I hit record, there's so many great games and there's only so many hours, right? There's only so many hours. So fill it with the ones that you really get excited about.
Absolutely.
All right. Second closing question is, do you have any specific games that you're excited to play or ideas that you just really want to get to the table?
Oh my gosh, I knew this question was coming and I had an answer. It's the funny thing is I have this joke also with a lot of the Don't Kill My Character crew. I call them the character crew, that no idea is safe around me because someone will make a joke saying something, oh, wouldn't it be funny if we did a story like that? And I'll immediately go into producer mode, but we could do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So I think the thing that I'm most excited about going would be and I've talked about this on stream too, but for Superhero Shenanigans, it came out of running an adventure module, The Reign of Cats and Dogs, with some of us, and it really built so much of our characters. It was so important to my character story because she ends up with this defining item for her and for the first part of our campaign, the Eye of Chaos, that the audience doesn't get to see because that wasn't recorded. We were just playing that to learn how to play the game. Yeah. Well, we have a series called Superhero Origins, which was time to let us futz around with tech and with each other and bringing new cast in and making sure that it worked before officially calling it Superhero Shenanigans. But we didn't want to put that in a prequel because it's already done. The events of that happened. So we don't want to play that out as an improv based game. So the idea instead was to write the script of it out and do it as an audio drama.
That's fun.
So record our parts that way. And there's also backstories that we wrote because it was truly 7 months before we played that game and Superhero Origins went on stream. It was 9 months until Superhero Shenanigans started. We had those 2 test Origins episodes. And so like in those 9 months, we did a ton of writing about our characters and how they met and their backstory. And I want to take those and make those audio scripts. And I also did audio dramas during the pandemic. That was my pandemic project when theaters were shut down. So that and like writing out the Reign of Cats and Dogs adventure as best we remember it. And luckily I took copious notes down to the actual quotes people said at the time. So those are the 2 projects I'd really like to do eventually, is getting those done and recorded.
I love the idea of doing like an audio drama with your players from a thing before. That's very cool. Very, very cool. All right. Well, that brings us to our final closing question, which is just, what do you want to pitch? And tell people where they can find you on the internet.
Absolutely. So I am Kate, aka Kate the Great Cosplays. So you can find me being me, cosplaying, going to conventions under that username. And then I am also Don't Kill My Character. I'm the producer of that. So all the social media posts as of now are still being written and responded to by me. I might have some more people jumping on that soon. So if you ever want to be sure you're just talking to Kate, make sure you message Kate the Great Cosplays. But Don't Kill My Character is where you get to see all of these wonderful shows I've been talking about, with Superhero Shenanigans will still be going, and Sanguine Scourge, our Vampire the Masquerade series. We should have our Daggerheart Transmutation and Turmoil starting up soon at this point. Oh gosh, it's one-shots here and there and everywhere, and I have people coming to me saying I have ideas for new campaigns, and at this point I'm going, great, awesome, let's put that in 2026. Oh, also Queer and Quozy is coming up probably Mondays around the time this will drop. So it's going to be almost every Monday. Sometimes we'll take Mondays off to learn a new game, but it's all queer cast members playing all cozy or quozy games.
I love that.
Have a nice chill time on Monday nights. So definitely check all of that out. And we have a Discord community for Don't Kill My Character. That's really wonderful. And I'm very often in there if you want to come say hi to me. And my convention list for my upcoming cons is always on my Linktree. At this point, I will probably be gearing up for New York Comic Con, which is always a very big, fun one. Get my big critter hug there. So definitely New York Comic Con, definitely PAX Unplugged. I love saying hi to people at cons. I love talking to people at cons. And what I noticed is as the events get bigger, less people come say hi to me after them. So this is me begging, please come say hi to me. I love talking to you guys. I love grabbing food after, hanging out after, waving around the convention hall. Please say hi. Please come talk. I do this because I love this community and I love everyone in it. And I love these connections and getting to share the nerddoms, as you have said, the fandoms that bring us all so much joy and happiness and play. Because we never grow out of our need to play. And you all are listening to this because you understand that. So come celebrate that with me.
Excellent. I will have all those links in the description. So go check out Don't Kill My Character. Check out Kate's awesome cosplay. Maybe meet up with her at a con and say hi.
Please.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This was lovely.
And as always, thank you so much for listening. I'm not going to do an outro spiel this time. I think this conversation was so much fun, and editing it made me smile all over again. My only thing is to add to Kate's homework, which is I want you to think about a character you're playing right now and go a little more in detail about what they're wearing during your game sessions, what your character is wearing, and if you feel up for it, make a playlist for them and share it with me. I want to hear what your characters are jamming on.